and welcome to the Barleymen, episode 4. At the end of episode 3, we tempted you with going through the whole Glenmorangie line. And what we decided pretty quickly is that why would we muddle our taste by going through the entire line if we are going to try a truly legendary, the top expression from Glenmorangie?
Yeah, when you mentioned that last time, I was a little dubious in my head. I was like, why are we going to do this? Like, I mean, it's an ambitious idea. But to do this, to try Signet after trying 3 or 4 different other expressions of Glenmorangie, I don't think it really does this justice. This is
a sort of bottle that really deserves justice. Quick note on Glenmorangie, which is, before you leave comments, we know that there are other pronunciations.
Yes, when you listen to videos online, people from Scotland will say Glenmorangie, but we but we're just used to saying Glenmorangie, and that's the way we're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I've said Glenmorangie. So when I was younger and first exploring Scotch, of the Highlands, Glenlivet, Glenfiddich, Glenmorangie, for sure, I went on to Team Glenmorangie, and I've just called it Glenmorangie ever since.
And I've just followed suit because I'm more of a novice than Mike here. As far as Glenmorangie, I have always been a fan as well. However, I'm more of a Glenlivet man, but we'll see what happens here.
Let me tell you a little bit about the Glenmorangie distillery. So one of the things that makes it absolutely unique, first off, the Glenmorangie farm, the first reported alcohol brewing that happened there is reported in 1703. But it isn't until about 1843 where William Matheson comes along and he takes the brewery and he changes it into a distillery. And the distillery itself is pretty unique in the fact that it has the tallest copper stills in all of Scotland.
As tall as a giraffe, or that's what they always say.
And if you'd like to know exactly how tall a giraffe is, their stills are 26 feet 3 inches tall.
That's pretty tall. It's funny, you said Matheson earlier.
Uh-huh.
One of my ancestors, actually, one that immigrated from the Isle of Skye, was a Matheson. So I wonder if there's any relation.
It was mothballed twice, by the way.
Okay.
It was mothballed once during from 30 to 36, where they weren't really producing anything, and that was due to the Prohibition, the Great Depression. It was mothballed a second time during World War II, right, from 1940 to 1944.
Mm-hmm. So, Mike, what's the most popular distillery in Scotland? For the Scottish people, that is.
So, Glenmorangie is the most popular Scotch for Scottish people.
Now, in America, it's Glenlivet, which I like, but that is pretty cool to think that for Scots, this is their favorite. So that says something. That says a lot about Glenmorangie.
Yeah. I can tell you that now, as of 2004, they were bought out and they're run by Moet Hennessy, Louis Vuitton, which is a French company, mm-hmm, which, when you look at some of their expressions, La Santa, Quinta Ruba, that's where you're seeing the French influence come back in.
You know what else the French own? Lafroig. Lafroig actually is owned by a French company. I forget the name of it, but there is definitely a French connection in Scotland. Scotland and France have been allies for a long time. They've had a common enemy, England. So this is serious. The friendship between France and Scotland goes back a long time. So these relationships that you see with these distilleries and these big French conglomerates is no mystery to me.
No, I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. Oh, I do want to say this.
What?
If you had an older bottle of Glenmorangie,
yeah,
and you looked at it, what you'll see is that it says, perfected by the 16 men of Tain. Who are the 16 men of Tain?
What is Tain?
Okay, so Tain is the town that Glenmorangie is in. Okay. And the 16 men of Tain are the employees that they had. They had 16 employees. They had 24 recently, which is why if you buy a newer bottle, it just says, perfected by the men of Tain.
I've also seen on websites where they talk about the secrets, and they're like, the secrets are held by the men of Tain. Such as the secrets inside this bottle, or this box.
Yeah, speaking of secrets inside this box, this particular expression of Scotch is quite unusual. You want to tell us about it?
Whoa. Before we even talk about the specifics, the intricacies, and the ingredients of Signet, we've got to talk about the man behind Signet, and really the man behind Glenmorangie.
Okay.
A man that goes by the name of Dr. Bill Lumsden. Now, Dr. Bill, I'm just going to call him Bill going forward, but the first time I saw Bill was actually quite recently. I watched a show on Netflix, a documentary called Scotch, A Golden Dram, which featured several notable figures in the world of Scotch, including mostly Jim McEwen, an island native, mostly of fame from bringing Bruichladdich back to life and several other things. But whenever you saw a scene with Bill, he really stole the show with his gregarious physicality, kind of animated persona, and a very thick, I believe it's Glaswegian accent, which really stood out from the rest of the crew.
That's the very hard to understand Scottish accent.
Yeah, Billy Connolly, the comedian, he's from Glasgow, and I believe Bill Lumsden. Bill is he grew up in Greenock, which is about 20 miles west of Glasgow. Okay. But I believe the accent is pretty much exactly the same. But anyway, a little background history of Bill.
Yeah.
So Bill's got a PhD in biochemistry. He got that sometime, I believe, in the mid-'80s. He started work, and even when he was going to school, he was interested in Scotch. Like him and his friends, he tried Scotch and decided that he wanted to get into that world. And so the first thing he did in his professional career is he worked for Diageo, which is that huge alcohol conglomerate. They own a lot of the big name brands, including Guinness. Guinness is just part of their huge portfolio. Anyway, he worked for them for about 10 years, and he dabbled around in single malt whiskey as well as grain whiskey. And then in 1995, actually, he got hired at Glenmorangie as their distillery manager.
Yeah, and then with I was just going to say, and with the Glenmorangie, he had a vision, right? Like, didn't he? He drank that coffee, didn't he?
Yes. Back in the 1980s, him and his friends, they drank Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee, and this is while he was working at Diageo. He envisioned or wondered about the possibilities of making a whiskey that had coffee notes and characteristics. But it wasn't until he got hired at Glenmorangie that this vision became a reality.
And the way that it became a reality is Glenmorangie itself has a different premise, and it's in the malting. And it's chocolate malt. So the chocolate malt, when we say chocolate malt, what we're really talking about is the roasting of a malt. Malts can go in various colors depending on whether they're roasted, whether they're non-roasted. It is a step below black malt,
right.
Which was actually an English invention. So the English, when they were trying to roast some malts, they did a quick, way too high heat. Because remember that when we go back in time, we don't have all the same technology that we have now, but that's where black malt came from. Chocolate is a step down, and it's not actually chocolate, it's just roasted malt.
Right. Yeah, there's no chocolate included. It's not part of the ingredients here. But when people hear that chocolate malt, they're thinking, oh yeah, there's chocolate. There's actually no chocolate.
No, but that roasting process of the malt really brings out lots of people describe it as coffee or chocolate, those very roasty, warm flavors.
Right. Now to backtrack for a second, going back to the history of Signet and Bill at Glenmorangie. So he became the director of distilling and whiskey creation, and it was under his control that they released Signet in 2008. It went on in 2018 to win Best Whiskey of the Year. All right, so Bill has been around for a long time. He's a legend in the industry. He's been called an icon, a visionary, mad scientist, and also he's been called the Willy Wonka of whiskey.
Which is a huge compliment, the Willy Wonka of whiskey.
Yeah, I would say in a way there's definitely some parallels to Sam Calagione at Dogfish Head, as far as being very experimental, thinking outside the box. When it comes to the whiskey world, there's really two that I can think of that are really experimental, and those would be Glenmorangie under Bill and then Bruichladdich. Those are the two that, for me, are really pushing the envelope now.
Absolutely, and you should also say this about Bill, which is that he isn't just in charge of Glenmorangie nowadays. He also helps with Ardbeg. Yeah,
so the Glenmorangie company proper owns Glenmorangie and Ardbeg. So it's pretty amazing. He's actually, so pretty much every distillery has a position called the master blender. And that's what Bill is and more. And he is that for Glenmorangie as well as Ardbeg. So can you imagine that? One day you're working on Glenmorangie's lineup, right? And then the next day you're going to Ardbeg, which is a totally different animal.
I mean, that's not so hard for me to imagine because that's the difference between sweet and salty. We know people like to snack on both.
Right.
So these Highland scotches, very sweet. In general, they're clearer, they're sweeter. When we get down into the Islas, like Ardbeg,
Right.
what we're really getting into is that salty, peaty,
The key word being
smoky.
Peat
Yes.
is the key word, because when you go to the Speysides and the Highlands, you really don't, unless you're going to Highland Park, really there's not much peat being used.
That's true. It's true. And I will also say this, which is back to that malting, the malt that he chose to use. It's a 4-step process, and I'm going to go through that in a second. But that malt, because he used a chocolate malt, which is that roasted malt, caused a scandal, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was almost banned. The Scotch Whisky Association, or the SWA, they're very strict, and rightfully so, because Scotch is a beautiful product and we don't want too much variation. I mean, with it, this is where we get the balance.
Yeah.
Like, is it strict enough? Are we staying within the parameters, or are we allowing enough more room? Now, some people are pushing the envelope, and Bill for sure is the biggest one doing that. Yeah. So,
So the 4-step process.
the 4-step process.
Right.
Yes.
They have the chocolate. They have the chocolate malt.
Right.
And what they also own is they own land inside of America where
Missouri.
they actually, in Missouri, where they cut their own. They have that forest, and they cut their own stuff for the barrels. They lease the barrels to Jack Daniels for 4 years. So when I tell you that it's an ex-bourbon cask, what I'm saying is that it was used to age bourbon in first, right?
Yeah.
So you have the they take that chocolate malt expression, they're aging that inside of an ex-bourbon cask.
Right.
They have 3 other older spirits, and these can range anywhere 35, 40 years. I think if you were to average the age of everything in Signet, it comes out to be about a 21-year-old Scotch. But so they use sherry casks, they use ex-bourbon casks in 2 of the different expressions, the chocolate malt and also the older spirit, and they also use an Ozark cask.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a no age statement, or NAS whiskey. However, as Mike said, really, if you were to do the math, it would be a 21-year-old.
Yeah. Now I want to just take a minute, before we even get to the tasting, I want to take a minute and I want to talk about this packaging. So you can see here on the Glenmorangie packaging, this comes in a very nice, very durable box that has a magnetic seal, and then of course we have the bottle itself. And it's got this symbol, and in fact every Glenmorangie has this symbol. You want to tell us about it?
Okay, so this symbol that you have here, this is the Hilton of Cadwal stone. This is a Pictish artifact from 800 AD. And so Glenmorangie found this and decided to use this as basically an icon for the distillery. And you will see it on all of their expressions, the label for all of their expressions. But here they bring it to the forefront with this beautiful, I'm not sure what kind of metal they use. It definitely looks like a gold or a bronze, but it's quite stunning.
Yeah, and it really, I mean, I keep touching it because you can physically feel the textures of the swirls in it.
Very nice.
It's very, very nice. So this is, we talk about the coolness factor often. This is almost coolness in an elegant way factor. The packaging itself is just nice.
It's a beautiful presentation.
It is. And so once you open up the magnetically sealed box, you get the bottle itself with the foam, and let's just pull that out. I'm excited.
I really like the gradation at the bottom where you've got this gold amber, and look at how it gradates up to like just pure black. That's really neat, and that's rare. I've never seen another bottle like that as far as whiskey.
That gradation is really cool, and just a beautiful presentation all the way around. Is there anything you'd like to say while I'm opening the bottle for our tasting?
You know, just a few things have occurred to me that we forgot to mention before. One interesting thing about Signet is that Glenmorangie only produces it once a year. For 1 week during the month of October, I believe, they shut down production on all their other expressions and focus solely on producing Signet. So it's a limited release once a year. That's one thing.
And I do want to also mention, this is the first time that either of us have actually had the opportunity to try Signet.
Yes.
So we are going in fresh. We've never had it before, so.
Another thing, to my knowledge, Signet is still the only Scotch that uses chocolate malt.
Feel the weight on that.
Oh, wow. That almost feels like it's glass.
Oh, I mean,
Or
it
some type of
probably is glass with
or
that cork.
maybe some type of metal.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's got some serious weight to it. That's really nice.
All right.
Plus the neck of it is some type of metal. Oh, thank you.
I'm just trying, seeing if we're about even. A little bit more. A little bit more. All right.
All right.
It's got a great weight.
Yeah, that's really neat.
I do have to say, just on the presentation and the bottle itself, everything about this feels good.
Yeah.
Which is luxury. I mean, it's luxury and coolness in its own.
Oh, it definitely speaks of luxury. It is a really nice presentation. They went all out. It is very classy. It's beautiful. I'm very excited to try this. I have been for a long time, so
Yeah.
this is quite a moment.
All right, we'll put the Signet bottle right there.
Okay, well, let's talk about the color.
Yeah.
We've got that's I would say medium to deep amber.
Yeah.
Now, one thing, I know this is non-chill filtered. I don't know, and I'm assuming that it's not colored. It could be colored, or actually, I don't think this is colored. I bet a lot of the color that we're getting here is from the chocolate malt.
Probably, actually, because the chocolate malt is known for those darker colors in the porters and the stouts.
Yeah.
All right.
Not seeing any. Well, actually, I do see a few particulates, which is normal when it's non-chill filtered. You will get a little bit of particulates.
Yeah, not many though. I mean, they're there.
Subtle.
Yep.
All right, let's nose.
Let's nose.
Oh, wow.
Oh man, that smells good. So it has. So I can for sure smell a lot of the same things that I love about Glenmorangie: the sweetness, the spiciness. But it has the wood, like the cask.
Yeah,
of wood.
it is sweet, which of course is typical Glenmorangie, but there's depth to it. There's more complexity. I'm getting wood. I'm getting oak for sure. Maybe different types.
Yeah, so it smells like different woods, but it's like I want to say I can smell the sherry, but can I actually, or is that just because I know that it is?
That you know that some of it's Asian sherry. I am getting some fruit notes, like candied fruit.
Mm-hmm.
It smells like a dessert to me.
Yeah,
in a way.
a little bit
got
caramely,
a lot of dessert qualities to it.
Okay.
I am getting a little bit of chocolate on the nose, a little bit of cocoa, and yes.
When you say it, then suddenly
of course,
I smell it.
And now I want to smell coffee, and if I think about it long enough, yes, I'm getting some bitter notes.
I did not smell the coffee, but when you said chocolate and then I raised it, I was like, oh yeah, chocolate.
Yes.
Was that there before? Did you implant that?
Maybe I did.
Maybe you did.
But we know it's using chocolate malt. We know it's got to have those flavors.
Well, and to be clear though, but chocolate malt itself is not chocolate.
Yes.
Right?
Oh,
so you should
yes.
not, when we say chocolate malt, what we're talking about is the roasting level of the malt itself. This does not actually have chocolate as an ingredient. However, that particular roasting of malt is known for its coffee, chocolatey flavors.
No, that was a good point to bring up. I was going to mention that earlier and I forgot. Just to make sure, so it's clear to our viewers that, just because it says chocolate malt, it does not mean it actually has chocolate in it. There is no chocolate.
No, but you can still taste or smell.
Yeah, no, the similar flavors are produced.
All right, I'm ready. You ready for the moment of truth?
Slanche.
Oh, wow.
Very smooth.
Yeah, it's not just smooth. So,
Lifting.
yeah, you know how I like to talk about where I feel it in my tongue and on my mouth. And with this one,
Yeah.
it was like, the best way I can use it is it's like a flower unfolding. So it's very centralized, even though I switched it around. But then as I opened my mouth to let it in, it just bloomed
Yes.
all the way across my mouth and palate.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Yeah.
is delectable.
It's definitely a lifting expansion of flavor. I am getting coffee. I'm getting a little bit of cocoa in here.
Yeah, for sure. The coffee, I can taste the coffee-ish flavor.
Yes.
And especially as once it expands back and it's hitting the back of your tongue, which is where your bitter receptors are. Once it starts hitting those neurons, it really, even now I can taste the bitterness, but it isn't unpleasant.
Mm.
Like, and when I say bitterness, I'm talking about that astringency you taste in coffee sometimes.
Yeah. I'm not getting that much astringency. I am getting a lot of like tingling sensation all around the tongue and the mouth. This is a very, very unique whiskey. I've never had anything like this. The flavor is quite unusual, but it's nice. I definitely like this. I think it's definitely a success. And I'm tempted now to buy it myself. Now, Mike, yeah, the price has definitely gone up from when it was purchased.
That's
as with
true.
all whiskeys.
It's been sitting in my little whiskey safe with a bunch of other expressions.
Right.
And I'm happy that this is the first time we finally get to try it. What an occasion.
Yes.
Wow. Like, it's almost like the longer that not that I sip another time, but as long as I just like wait, it's almost like new flavors are unveiling for me.
And that's a sign of a really good Scotch. When you get that, it's just that with a finish, it like morphs and it evolves into different things as you go. It's not just one-dimensional. It takes you on a winding, twisting road.
Yeah. I mean, it has that tingling. It unfurled. Now I'm left with like, I'm gonna say almost like a spiced honey feeling in my mouth.
There's definite residual sweetness. Like that's what I'm getting in my mouth right now. There's a lot of sweetness. I'm getting a lot of sugar. It's pleasant though. It's really pleasant. I would definitely say, as with a great beer, the balance here is superb. You know what? If I was to like, as I drink this and I enjoy the finish, and I'm looking at it, I'm wondering what this evokes in me as far as an experience. Mm-hmm. And I would say Christmas. To me, this would be perfect during Christmas, during the holidays when it's cold. There is some sweetness to it. There's a dessert kind of factor going on. So for me, I say this would be a good one for celebrating the holidays on a wintry, stormy afternoon. This would be perfect.
I mean, yeah. So, yeah, that is an excellent storytelling depiction, right? I see it as Christmas as well. The moment you said that, I'm like, that's it. Maybe all of November, December, and that holidays. It's cold, but it's not too cold, and it's just a delightful.
But wouldn't it be great during Christmas, especially with friends and family, to break this out?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
really, you'd be hard pressed to find one better. To think about, like, let's say you're having a Christmas party, and you're going to break out a Scotch. What would be better than this? Something that would appeal to many types, because yes, we both love Islays, and we both.
No. That's where I went with that. Is in my head. So we've talked on this show that we like Lagavulin 16 quite a bit, but Lagavulin 16 is not a Christmas Scotch. That's not what I'm breaking out for Christmas.
And it's not for everyone.
No, and it is not for everyone. And then when you were talking about that, I was running through the line of Glenmorangie.
Yeah.
I was running through the line in my head, and like Golden Door is very summer into autumn. It's very, and Quintaruba is very, I don't know. I think it's like full kind of fall, but harvesty apples. This could be the Christmas. I agree.
I think so. And you know what I'm getting now? Butterscotch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. When you say that, Well, so really briefly, just to make sure we hit our points, we have a beautiful amber color.
Yes.
It has quite a complex nose. Lots of different types of wood in that smelling. The taste, unfurled for a flower like me, set your tongue a tingle.
Mm-hmm.
The finish.
The finish is excellent. And I think we're getting a really interesting experience because of the blending of the different ages of spirits. Because we've got the younger chocolate malt spirit, which has given us those coffee and those cocoa chocolate flavors. But there's more. There's more. The older stuff, we're getting a lot more complexity to it, which is really nice.
Yeah, it keeps going.
It keeps going and going.
And the coolness factor, I mean, we talked about the packaging, but quite honestly, if this is something that you did indeed break out for Christmas, you are not going to go wrong. The bottle itself, anyone who handles it, it just feels good to hold. The packaging, the bottle, texturally, tactilely, is just amazing.
Yeah, no, I think this is just a stunning success for Dr. Bill Lumsden. This is great. I've wanted to try it for a long time. I was actually a little nervous. I'm like, is it going to live up to the hype? Because that's happened before, where I've had some whiskeys where that they're vaulted, really respected whiskeys, and the first time, and of course, sometimes it takes a few times. Not with this one.
No.
This one right away, you're like, ooh, yes, I see. This is 100, or I understand why it won in 2018 is the best whiskey of the world.
Absolutely.
It is world class.
It is complex, it is delightful, it fills the senses, and so that is Signet. Jason, tell us what's coming up next.
All right, well, I think we're going to change gears and go back to beer, but not just any beer. Let's see what we got back here. Oh, goodness. What's this? Well, this is a legendary Trappist ale from Belgium, Westmalle. Not just this one, actually. We've got a couple more back here,
We
I
do,
believe.
we do.
What else we got, Mike?
Well, why don't you tell us?
We've got Chimay, the blue label. I just call it the blue label. And then we've got St. Bernardist, Abbot 12. So these are three legendary Trappist ales or Abbey ales.
So, a Trappist trio,
A Trappist trio, yes, indeed.
Stay tuned for the Trappist trio. I'm Michael,
I'm Jason.
and as we always say on the Barleymen,
Never stop exploring. So Bill's been
so Bill, my friend Bill.